The first wave came without warning. Massive crystalline vessels emerged from hyperspace, their geometric forms fracturing the morning sky over major cities worldwide. In New York, Tokyo, London, and Beijing, the alien ships hung like impossible architectural nightmares, their surfaces shifting with colors that human eyes struggled to comprehend. Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched through the reinforced glass of the underground quantum research facility beneath the Atacama Desert. Her fingers, usually steady while manipulating delicate quantum sensors, now trembled almost imperceptibly. Around her, a team of 30 of the world's most brilliant scientists and engineers worked with a controlled urgency that bordered on desperation. "Transmission incoming," announced Marcus Chen, the facility's communications specialist. His voice carried a clinical detachment that barely masked the underlying tension. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing simultaneous broadcasts from around the globe. Military responses were swift but futile. Fighter jets approached the alien vessels, only to be vaporized by weapons that seemed to dissolve matter at the molecular level. Elena watched a F-35 fighter disintegrate midair, its pilot's final radio transmission a burst of static that cut through the facility's communication systems. She didn't flinch. Her mind was already racing, analyzing the energy signatures of the weapon that had just obliterated the advanced military aircraft. "Energy dispersion pattern is unlike anything in our previous models," she muttered, her fingers dancing across holographic interface panels. Quantum graphs and spectral analyses began to take shape, revealing something extraordinary about the destructive technology. Outside the facility, the world was changing. Satellite feeds showed massive energy weapons cutting through cities like surgical instruments. Entire metropolitan areas vanished in moments, replaced by expanding clouds of quantum-dissolved matter. The X-Archon, as they would later be identified, were not interested in conquest in the traditional sense. They were performing what could only be described as precise, large-scale erasure. Dr. Aisha Okafor, Elena's closest colleague and a brilliant quantum physicist in her own right, approached the main display. Her dark eyes reflected the complex data streams, catching nuances that others might miss. "They're not just destroying," Aisha said quietly. "They're collecting something. Look at the energy transfer patterns." Elena nodded. The destruction wasn't random. Each strike left behind a specific quantum signature, almost like a data collection method. The aliens were harvesting something from the planetary destruction: information, energy, or something far more complex. Marcus interrupted their observation. "Global communication networks are collapsing. Military command structures are gone. Estimated human casualties are already in the billions." The words hung in the air, a brutal testament to the scale of the invasion. But Elena Rodriguez wasn't thinking about the loss. She was seeing an opportunity hidden within the destruction. Her mind raced through quantum mechanics principles, seeing beyond the immediate devastation. The X-Archon weapons weren't just destroying matter. They were transforming it. Each molecular dissolution created complex quantum entanglement points. To most, this would seem like pure annihilation. To Elena, it was a potential breakthrough. "We need to collect more data," she announced to the team. "Every piece of destroyed infrastructure, every energy signature, every quantum disruption. We're going to analyze it all." The facility buzzed with a renewed sense of purpose. While the world above was being systematically erased, this small group of scientists was preparing to do something unprecedented. They would turn destruction into possibility. Outside, another massive energy wave swept across a continental landscape. Cities that had stood for centuries vanished in moments. Millions of lives were extinguished in the blink of an eye. But in the underground facility, hope was taking a different form. A hope built on understanding, on science, on the fundamental human ability to adapt. Elena Rodriguez looked at her team. They were no longer just scientists. They were humanity's last chance at survival. "Prepare the quantum analysis protocols," she said. "We're going to learn everything we can about how they destroy. And then we're going to use that knowledge to fight back." The Exarchon might have arrived to erase humanity, but they had no idea what they had just awakened. The underground quantum research facility had become more than a scientific outpost. It was now the nerve center of humanity's survival strategy. Survivors from around the world began to trickle in, not just through traditional means, but through a complex network of hidden routes and carefully planned extraction missions. Each new arrival brought with them fragments of knowledge, pieces of a complex puzzle that Elena Rodriguez and her team were desperate to solve. Carlos Menendez, a former military communications specialist who had survived the initial invasion by hiding in the communication tunnels beneath Mexico City, arrived with a collection of damaged communication devices and alien technological fragments. These were extracted from a fallen Exarchon drone, Carlos explained, carefully laying out the components on a pristine analysis table. The materials seemed to defy conventional understanding. Surfaces that shifted between solid and semi-transparent states, circuitry that appeared to be both mechanical and biological. Dr. Aisha Okafor began the meticulous process of analysis. Quantum scanners probed the alien technology, revealing layers of complexity that went far beyond human understanding. The communication systems aren't just technological, she muttered, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. They're almost organic, like a living network. Elena approached, studying the data streams. The alien technology wasn't simply a set of machines. It was a form of distributed intelligence. Each component seemed to communicate with others, creating a vast, interconnected system that responded and adapted in real time. Across the facility, other survivors brought their own discoveries. A group of engineers from a destroyed automotive research center had managed to salvage advanced sensor equipment. A team of former aerospace researchers arrived with fragments of alien hull material that seemed to absorb and redirect energy in ways that defied known physics. Marcus Chen had been working on decoding the fragmented communication signals they had managed to intercept. It's not just a language, he explained during a team briefing. It's a form of quantum communication that uses energy states as a method of information transfer. The implications were staggering. The Exarchon weren't just using advanced technology. They were fundamentally different in how they processed information and understood the universe. Elena recognized that their survival depended on understanding these differences. We're not just fighting a technological war, she told the assembled team. We're facing a completely different paradigm of existence. Days turned into weeks. The underground facility became a crucible of innovation. Survivors from different scientific disciplines began to collaborate in ways they never would have before the invasion. A marine biologist worked alongside a quantum physicist. A retired computer engineer collaborated with a material scientist. Their first major breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Maria Rodriguez, no relation to Elena, had been a geological survey technician before the invasion. She noticed something unique about the quantum signatures left behind by the Exarchon weapons. Look at these energy dispersion patterns, Maria said, projecting her findings. The quantum graphs showed something extraordinary. The destructive energy wasn't just destroying matter, it was simultaneously collecting and transferring information. The team worked tirelessly, piecing together a radical new understanding. The Exarchon weren't simply destroying planets. They were harvesting something. Perhaps information, perhaps energy, perhaps something far more complex. Carlos brought in new intelligence from survivor networks. Small resistance groups were forming worldwide, each gathering information about the alien technology. They weren't just fighting anymore. They were studying, learning, preparing. We're building a distributed research network, Elena explained during a strategy meeting. Every piece of information, every fragment of alien technology, brings us closer to understanding how to fight back. The facility had transformed. It was no longer just a research center. It was the heart of humanity's resistance, a place where scientific curiosity, human resilience, and the desperate need to survive converge. As alien ships continued to reshape the planet's surface, this small group of survivors was doing something unprecedented. They were turning destruction into an opportunity for understanding. They were preparing to fight back in a way the Ex-Archon could never anticipate. Elena Rodriguez looked around the room at her team. Scientists, engineers, survivors. They were humanity's last hope, and they were ready to make that hope count. The breakthrough came on a day when hope seemed most distant. 37 days after the initial invasion, the research facility hummed with a nervous energy that was equal parts exhaustion and anticipation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been awake for nearly 72 hours, her eyes fixed on a complex holographic display that looked more like an abstract painting than scientific data. Surrounding her were dozens of quantum sensors, each carefully calibrated to detect the most minute energy variations. Coffee mugs stood cold and forgotten, their contents long since evaporated. "I'm seeing something," Dr. Aisha Okafor whispered, her voice cutting through the ambient noise of computer systems and electrical hum. The team gathered around, their breath collectively held. What they saw defied everything they understood about physics, about energy transfer, about the very nature of destruction itself. The Ex-Archon weapon signatures weren't just destroying matter, they were transforming it. Each energy pulse created a complex quantum entanglement that left behind a precise informational imprint. It was as if the aliens weren't simply obliterating planets, but were conducting an intricate, large-scale data collection process. Maria Rodriguez, the geological survey technician, pointed to a specific graph. "Look at the energy transfer patterns. They're not random. There's a deliberate mathematical progression here." Carlos Menendez, who had been analyzing communication fragments, added his observation. "It's like each destruction event is actually a form of communication. They're not just killing. They're recording, collecting, transferring information." Elena's mind raced. The implications were staggering. The Ex-Archon weren't conducting a traditional invasion. They were performing something far more complex, a systematic harvesting of planetary information. "We can redirect this," Elena suddenly announced, her voice cutting through the analytical murmur. "If we can understand the quantum entanglement points, we might be able to not just absorb the energy, but use it." The team looked at her. What seemed like a moment of scientific insight was actually the first glimpse of humanity's potential survival strategy. Their first prototype was nothing glamorous. Built from salvaged communication equipment, quantum sensors, and fragments of alien technology collected from destroyed urban areas, it looked more like a mad scientist's desperate experiment than a sophisticated defensive system. The initial test happened in a shielded underground chamber. Quantum energy collectors surrounded a small target area. If their theory was correct, they could capture and redirect the destructive energy that had been devastating their planet. Initiating quantum resonance sequence, Marcus Chen announced, his fingers dancing across a complex control interface. The room filled with a low, oscillating hum that seemed to vibrate at a frequency just beyond human hearing. Quantum sensors began to light up, displaying complex energy transfer patterns. For a moment, nothing happened. Then suddenly, the target area began to shimmer. Energy that should have been destructive was being captured, redirected, transformed. The team erupted in controlled excitement. This wasn't just a scientific breakthrough. This was humanity's first real response to the alien invasion. Dr. Aisha Okafor ran initial calculations. "We've captured approximately 47% of the targeted energy signature. And look, we're not just absorbing it. We're creating a stable quantum field." The prototype was crude. The energy capture was incomplete. But it was a start. Elena understood the profound nature of their discovery. The Ex-Archon had arrived believing they were conducting a systematic planetary harvest. They had no idea they were teaching humanity a completely new way of understanding energy, of surviving. "We're going to need to scale this," Elena told her team. "And we're going to need help from every surviving scientific and engineering group on the planet." Outside the facility, alien ships continued to reshape the planetary landscape. But inside, a small group of humans had just discovered something extraordinary. They weren't just going to survive. They were going to fight back. and they were going to do it by turning the aliens' own technology against them. The quantum breakthrough was more than a scientific achievement. It was humanity's first true weapon of resistance. The quantum research facility had become more than a scientific outpost. It was now the central nervous system of humanity's most sophisticated resistance effort in history. Global communication networks were decimated, but survivors had developed an ingenious alternative. Using a combination of salvaged satellite technology, quantum communication fragments, and improvised relay systems, resistance groups began to form a truly global network. Each group became a node of information, strategy, and survival. Elena Rodriguez stood before a massive holographic map, tracking the distribution of their quantum energy collection prototypes. Colored markers indicated research centers, salvage teams, and strategic locations where they were collecting and analyzing alien technology. "We're not just building weapons," she explained to the assembled strategy team. "We're creating a comprehensive understanding of the Xarkon's technological ecosystem." Dr. Aisha Okafor brought up a detailed analysis of their current capabilities. "Our quantum energy redirection prototypes are showing exponential improvement. We've increased capture efficiency from 47% to nearly 68% in just 3 weeks." Carlos Menendez, now heading the global communication and intelligence gathering efforts, shared reports from various resistance cells. Survivors from different continents were sending in critical pieces of information, fragments of alien technology, energy signature recordings, and detailed observations of Xarkon weapon systems. A team of former aerospace engineers had set up a hidden facility in the Andes Mountains. They were working on integrating the quantum energy collection technology into portable systems. Another group, comprised of marine researchers from a now-destroyed oceanographic institute, was developing ways to use the quantum redirection technology to protect underground water resources. "We're building a distributed research network," Elena told the team. "Each group is a piece of a larger puzzle. The Xarkon think they've destroyed our infrastructure, but they've actually created something they can't comprehend." Maria Rodriguez, the geological survey technician, had been working on a breakthrough of her own. She had discovered that the alien weapon signatures left behind unique molecular transformations in destroyed infrastructure. What that Xarkon saw as complete annihilation was actually creating complex energy transfer points. "Look at this," Maria said, projecting a series of molecular structure visualizations. "Each destroyed building, each obliterated piece of technology. It's not just gone. It's been transformed." The strategy was becoming clear. They weren't going to fight that Xarkon with traditional military might. They were going to understand them, adapt to them, and turn their own technology against them. Salvage teams were now operating with surgical precision. Small groups would enter recently destroyed urban areas, collecting fragments of alien technology, measuring energy signatures, and gathering critical data. They moved like ghosts, using advanced camouflage technologies developed from studying alien sensor systems. Carlos brought in reports from a resistance cell in what was once Southeast Asia. They've developed a method of using quantum energy collection devices to create localized protective fields. It's not a weapon, not yet, but it's a start. Elena understood the deeper significance. They were doing more than just preparing to fight. They were learning a completely new way of understanding energy, of existing. The Xarkon see destruction as a form of data collection. She explained during a strategy briefing. "We're going to turn that against them. Every piece of destroyed infrastructure is now a potential source of information, of energy, of resistance." The facility had become a beacon of hope. Scientists, engineers, former military personnel, and survivors from all walks of life were coming together. They shared a single purpose: understanding the alien technology and finding a way to survive. Outside, alien ships continued to reshape the planetary landscape. But inside this underground network, humanity was mounting a resistance unlike anything that Xarkon could have anticipated. Elena looked around the room. These weren't just researchers anymore. They were humanity's last, best hope. "We're going to learn everything we can about how they destroy," she said, her voice steady and determined. "And then we're going to use that knowledge to fight back." The silent strategy was taking shape, and the Archon had no idea what was coming. The Archon patrol fleet arrived with the same cold precision that had characterized their initial invasion. 12 massive crystalline vessels emerged from hyperspace, their geometric forms casting prismatic shadows across the Pacific Ocean. They moved with an almost mathematical certainty, expecting nothing more than routine planetary suppression. They had no idea humanity was waiting. Deep within the hidden quantum research facility, Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood before a complex control system that looked more like an abstract art installation than a military command center. Surrounding her, a team of specialists from disciplines that would have never collaborated before the invasion now worked with synchronized precision. "Quantum energy collectors at 92% capacity," announced Marcus Chen, his fingers dancing across holographic interfaces. "All distributed network nodes are synchronized." Dr. Aisha Okafor monitored the alien fleet's approach. Their weapon signature is charging. Estimated time to first strike: 3 minutes, 17 seconds. The plan was audacious. Instead of traditional defense, they would use that Archon's own destructive technology against them. Each quantum energy collector was strategically placed, some in the remnants of destroyed cities, others in carefully selected geographical locations that had been meticulously studied. Carlos Menendez, managing the global communication network, maintained contact with resistance cells around the world. "All sectors report ready," he confirmed. "Quantum redirection matrices are online." The first energy weapon discharged from the lead Archon vessel. It was a pulse of destructive potential that had, in previous encounters, obliterated entire metropolitan regions in milliseconds. But this time, something different happened. The energy wave hit the first quantum collection point, what was once the heart of San Francisco. Instead of total destruction, the energy was captured, measured, analyzed in real time. Quantum sensors absorbed the destructive potential, breaking it down into complex informational patterns. "Capture efficiency at 76%, Maria Rodriguez called out, tracking the energy transfer. "Redirecting quantum streams now." The captured energy didn't dissipate. It was channeled, transformed, redirected through a network of quantum collectors that spanned the globe. The Archon weapons became conduits for humanity's resistance, each strike feeding into a larger, more complex system of energy management. A second Archon vessel fired, then a third. Each attack became a source of information, of energy, of potential counteraction. "They don't understand," Elena muttered, watching the holographic displays. "They're not just attacking. They're teaching us." The alien fleet began to realize something was wrong. Their weapon systems, which had been unstoppable in previous planetary invasions, were being transformed. Energy that should have obliterated entire regions was being captured, studied, redirected. Quantum collectors in the Australian outback, in the Siberian tundra, in the depths of the Amazon rainforest, all worked in concert. The destruction became a network, a communication system that the Archon had never anticipated. "Quantum resonance field stabilizing," Aisha reported. The energy from the alien attacks was not just being absorbed, it was being understood, integrated into a larger system of planetary defense. One by one, the Archon vessels began to experience system failures, not from traditional weapon attacks, but from their own energy being transformed, redirected, used against them in ways their computational systems couldn't comprehend. "They're trying to recalibrate," Marcus observed. "But our quantum network is adapting faster than they can respond." It wasn't a traditional battle. It was a complex dance of energy, of information, of technological adaptation. Humanity was learning to speak the Archon's own technological language, and improving upon it. As the final Archon vessel began to experience critical system failures, Elena Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. This was more than a defensive action. This was a fundamental reimagining of how technology, energy, and resistance could work. The patrol fleet that had come to maintain planetary suppression was now becoming a critical source of information for humanity's resistance. Maintain quantum collection, Elena instructed her team. Every piece of data, every energy signature, it's all valuable. Outside, the first signs of the Xarkhan fleet's defeat became visible. But inside the research facility, they knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had just fought back, and they had done it by turning destruction into an opportunity for understanding. The success of the first counteraction against the Xarkhan fleet triggered an unprecedented acceleration of human technological development. What had begun as a survival strategy was now transforming into something far more profound, a fundamental reimagining of human potential. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood in the Advanced Integration Laboratory, watching as the first group of volunteer augmentation subjects underwent quantum energy adaptation protocols. The facility had transformed from a research center into a crucible of human evolution. Dr. Aisha Okafor carefully monitored the biological interfaces. Quantum resonance stabilizing, she announced. Cellular integration at 62% and holding. The augmentation process was unlike any previous human enhancement attempt. Instead of simply adding technological components to the human body, they were developing the true symbiosis between biological systems and quantum energy management. Marcus Chen, now leading the biological integration team, explained the breakthrough to a group of nervous volunteers. "We're not just adding technology to your body," he said carefully. "We're creating a new way of interacting with energy itself." The first volunteers were a diverse group: scientists, former military personnel, survivors from different backgrounds. Each had volunteered knowing the risks, understanding that they were becoming something entirely new. Carlos Menendez brought in the latest data from global resistance networks. "Our distributed research groups are seeing similar breakthroughs," he reported. "Locations in the Andes, in hidden facilities across Asia, in underground research centers in Europe. Everyone is making similar discoveries." The human body was becoming a quantum energy conduit. Specialized neural interfaces allowed individuals to not just channel destructive energy, but to understand and manipulate it at a fundamental level. Skin could now absorb and redirect energy signatures that would have instantly killed an unaugmented human. Maria Rodriguez, now leading the molecular adaptation research, showed Elena the latest cellular analysis. "Look at this," she said, projecting a complex holographic image of augmented human cells. "We're not just protecting against the Xarkhan weapons. We're learning to speak their technological language." The augmentation wasn't just about defense. It was about understanding. Each volunteer became a living research platform, collecting and analyzing quantum energy data in real time. The human nervous system was being rewritten, expanded, transformed. "We're creating a distributed intelligence network," Elena explained during a strategy briefing. "Each augmented individual becomes a node of information, of resistance." The psychological challenges were significant. The volunteers experienced sensory inputs that went far beyond traditional human perception. They could feel energy flows, understand quantum interactions in ways that defied previous scientific understanding. One volunteer, a former emergency response worker named Elena Santos, described her experience. "It's like seeing a new color," she said, "like hearing a sound that was always there but never noticed before. The energy, it's alive. It communicates." The Xarkhan had arrived expecting to harvest a planet. Instead, they were inadvertently teaching humanity a completely new way of existing. Aisha brought up the latest global data. "Augmentation success rates are increasing," she reported. "We're seeing adaptation capabilities that go beyond our initial projections. The human body, it's more flexible, more adaptive than we ever imagined." The facility buzzed with a sense of potential that went far beyond mere survival. This was a fundamental transformation of what it meant to be human. Elena Rodriguez understood the profound nature of their work. They weren't just developing a defense against the Xarkhan. They were opening a door to a new form of human existence. "We're not just fighting," she told the team. "We're evolving." Outside, alien ships still occasionally passed overhead. But inside this facility, humanity was becoming something that Archon could never have anticipated. Not just a species fighting for survival, but a species learning, adapting, transforming. The volunteers looked at each other, no longer just individuals, but nodes in a living, breathing network of quantum potential. They were the first wave of a new kind of human. And the Archon had no idea what was coming. The final battle began in Earth's orbit, a complex dance of technological capability that defied all previous understanding of warfare. 217 augmented humans stood ready, each a living quantum energy conduit connected to a vast, distributed network that spanned the planet. Their ships were not constructed from traditional materials, but from carefully restructured remnants of destroyed cities, alien technology, and quantum adaptive alloys. Dr. Elena Rodriguez coordinated from the primary command center, her augmented neural interface allowing her to process information at speeds that would have been impossible months ago. "Sarkhan main fleet detected," she announced. "Quantum resonance network is online." The alien fleet approached with their characteristic geometric precision. 12 massive crystalline vessels that had systematically destroyed countless civilizations. They moved with a computational certainty that had always been their greatest strength. But this time, something was different. Dr. Aisha Okafor monitored the energy signatures. "They're using the same attack patterns," she observed. "They haven't adapted." Marcus Chen managed the global communication network. Resistance cells on every continent were synchronized, their quantum energy collectors ready to transform destruction into potential. "All nodes are responsive," he reported. "Quantum redirection matrices at maximum capacity." The first Archon energy weapon discharge, a pulse of destructive potential that had obliterated entire planetary surfaces in previous invasions. But now, something extraordinary happened. Elena Santos, one of the first augmented volunteers, stood on the bridge of her quantum adaptive vessel. She could feel the energy weapon approaching, not as a threat, but as information. Her augmented nervous system processed the quantum signature in milliseconds, understanding its structure, its intent. "Redirecting," she said quietly. The energy wave that should have destroyed her ship instead became a conduit. Quantum collectors absorbed the destructive potential, breaking it down, redistributing it through a network that spanned the planet and now extended into orbit. Carlos Menendez tracked the global response. "Energy capture at 94%, he called out. "Redistribution network is stable." The augmented humans weren't just defending. They were learning, adapting, transforming the very nature of the conflict. Each Sarkhan weapon strike became a source of information, of energy, of potential counteraction. Maria Rodriguez monitored the molecular transformations happening in real time. The ships themselves were changing, absorbing the alien technology, integrating it into their quantum adaptive structures. What that Archon saw as a fleet of invasion vessels, humanity was turning into a living, learning network. "They can't comprehend what's happening," Aisha observed, watching the alien fleet's computational systems begin to fail. The Archon had encountered species that resisted, species that fought back, but they had never encountered a species that could literally transform their own destructive potential. The battle was not a traditional conflict. It was a complex conversation in a language of energy, of information, of quantum potential. Humanity was not just fighting. They were communicating on a level that Archon had never anticipated. One by one, the alien vessels began to experience critical system failures, not from traditional weapon attacks, but from their own energy being understood, redirected, used in ways their computational systems couldn't process. Elena Rodriguez watched the holographic displays, understanding the profound nature of what was happening. This was more than a defensive action. This was a fundamental reimagining of technological interaction, of survival, of potential. "Maintain quantum collection," she instructed. Every piece of data is valuable. The augmented humans moved with a synchronicity that was both terrifying and beautiful. They were no longer just individuals. They were nodes in a living, breathing network of quantum potential. As the final Xarkon vessel began to disintegrate, transformed by the very energy it had intended to use for destruction, Elena Santos felt something profound. This wasn't just a victory. This was a transformation. Humanity had not just survived. They had evolved. Outside the viewports, the remnants of the Xarkon fleet drifted, reduced to raw quantum information. Their invasion transformed into a source of potential, of understanding. The moment of transformation was complete. 50 years after the final battle, Earth had become something entirely unrecognizable to those who had survived the initial Xarkon invasion. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, now in her 70s but still leading humanity's ongoing quantum research, stood on the observation deck of the Global Integration Center. The facility rose from the reconstructed landscape, a testament to human resilience and innovation. Around her, the world pulsed with a new kind of existence that blended technology, biology, and quantum potential. The cities were no longer static structures. They were living, adaptive networks that could reshape themselves in response to environmental and energy conditions. Buildings absorbed and redirected energy, communicated through quantum networks, and evolved in real time. Dr. Aisha Okafor approached, her own augmentations keeping her as sharp and vibrant as she had been decades earlier. The latest planetary integration reports are complete, she said, projecting a holographic display that showed the Earth as a complex, interconnected quantum system. The transformation had been total. Humanity was no longer just a biological species. They had become a quantum-adaptive civilization that could communicate with and understand energy in ways that would have seemed impossible before the Xarkon invasion. Elena Santos, now a lead researcher in quantum biological integration, demonstrated the latest advances. A small group of children played nearby, their augmentations allowing them to perceive and interact with energy fields that were invisible to previous generations. They manipulated quantum streams as easily as previous generations had used smartphones, creating intricate energy patterns that danced and shifted around them. "We're not just surviving anymore," Elena Santos explained. "We're exploring potential." The global network that had begun as a survival strategy had evolved into a comprehensive planetary intelligence system. Every augmented human was a node, every city a complex quantum processor, every interaction an opportunity for learning and growth. Carlos Menendez, now heading the Interstellar Exploration Initiative, brought the latest data from humanity's first quantum-adaptive starships. "We're not just traveling through space," he said. "We're communicating with it." The ships were living systems, their hulls adaptive quantum networks that could reshape themselves, absorb energy, and navigate through cosmic environments in ways that defied previous understanding of space travel. Maria Rodriguez, who had become a leading expert in quantum ecology, showed how the planetary reconstruction had gone far beyond simple restoration. Ecosystems were now quantum adaptive networks. Forests could communicate, redirect energy, adapt to changing conditions with a complexity that blurred the lines between technology and living systems. "The Xarkon thought they were harvesting a planet," Maria explained. "Instead, they taught us how to truly understand our own potential." Dr. Elena Rodriguez reflected on the journey. What had begun as a desperate attempt to survive had become a fundamental transformation of human existence. The invasion that was meant to destroy humanity had instead become the catalyst for its greatest evolution. The quantum research facility that had been their initial refuge was now a global museum, a testament to human resilience. Interactive displays showed the progression from traditional technology to quantum adaptive systems. Visitors could experience the moment-by-moment transformation that had saved the species. "We didn't just survive," Elena told a group of young researchers. "We became something new." The global quantum network had expanded beyond Earth, Preliminary exploration suggested that the communication method they had learned from the Exarchon could be used to understand and interact with other planetary systems in ways no previous civilization had imagined. As the sun set, casting a quantum prismatic light across the adaptive cityscape, Elena Rodriguez felt a sense of profound possibility. Humanity had transformed destruction into potential, defeat into understanding. The Exarchon had come to harvest a planet. Instead, they had awakened a species. Outside, a quantum-adaptive starship prepared for its next exploration, its hull shimmering with potential, a living testament to humanity's extraordinary journey. The vessel was more than a ship. It was a living representation of everything humanity had become. Not just survivors, not just adapters, transformers.